Hello, this is a free call from
Hey, it's Gypsy.
An offender at the Chillicothe Correctional Center.
This call is from a correctional facility and may be monitored and recorded.
To accept this free call, press 1. To refuse this free call, press 2.
If you would like to
Thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now.
Hello.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, Gypsy, how are you?
I'm doing good. Is this a good time to call?
It's great, actually. I wasn't even sure. I texted Melissa to ask if you could do 2 o'clock because my son plays baseball and I have to take him to baseball after like 4. So this is perfect.
Okay, good. Yeah, because at 4 my time, which is 5 your time, I have about only 15 minutes to talk because they closed the day room down for count time. So this works better for me too.
Okay, great. Well, so you said they closed the day room down for what?
Count time. We have to be
Right.
for a count. And so it makes it a little hard whenever it's close to count time because then it's like, okay, well, if you get in a conversation with someone and it, it has to be cut short, so I want to make sure if it's a business call, I have lots of time to talk.
Great. Well, I am so excited, and I'm really thrilled that Melissa even thought it was a good idea for me to jump in here with the chapter summaries now that we, have the overview close to where we all think it, is impactful. And so I thought, well, why not do the same kind of thing when you and I were riffing last time to get these chapter summaries now in a similar voice, in a similar perspective.
Okay.
Melissa sent me, I have the original from the original proposal, and then she sent me these 4 pages that you and she kind of went over again to kind of really see what the theme should be. And this is so much better already, in my opinion. I mean, you guys did a ton of work.
Yeah, and it really didn't take us that long. We maybe stayed on the phone for 45 minutes trying to just like she gave me a idea of what the chapter would be about and what the angle we were coming from was, and the ideas started rolling from there.
Right. No, yeah. I just, now, I just think again we should stick with the first person, and, you just anyway. We can just. I don't know how much we're going to cover, if we'll get through all of it, but I mean, I'm not going to write all of it like right away. I have to write chapter by chapter. So, so basically, if you don't mind, I'm going to just put you. It's just me here in my kitchen. I'm going to just put you on speaker because what I'm going to do is I'm going to type while we talk. So I need my 2 hands. So is that okay?
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, as long as I can hear you, so that's more important. Okay. So basically, I wanted to ask you, for instance, in the chapter 1, and let me know how much you need me to remind you of where we are, in where we're talking about the chapters.
Mm-hmm.
So in chapter 1, Mother Knows Best, this was the base of her mother's twisted love. I'm just reading notes. And how it started seemingly innocent until it wasn't. And this obviously is in your POV, and perceiving the love of a mother in the beginning is genuine. And in chapter 4, readers will understand how you uncover the deception yourself. So we're planting those seeds here. But I understand exactly, what Melissa's talking about, this kind of how else would you know? I mean, if you're born into this love, then you're thinking that's love. I want to start with the question of, if I'm a reader and I'm reading this chapter, and it's the only chapter I read in the entire book, what is the 1 or 2 takeaways, like the lasting impression that you'd want the reader to have about this particular chapter?
I think that I would want the reader to take away from it that if you hold on too tight to someone that you love, or if you shelter them too much or try and narrow their vision to where it's only you that they see, there is a consequence and there is a start point of what becomes unhealthy. Because if you hold on to something too tight, there's no room to grow. So in a sense, I was already, how should I word that? It was already like sabotage before it even began. Because it's like my mother held on so tight, even as a young child, to where I wasn't allowed to have friends. I wasn't allowed to play with the neighborhood kids or go to public school. And my mother was my everything. My mother was my best friend. You know, I had my stuffed animals and my dolls and my mother. And later on, I had a cat. But the point is that she narrowed my vision of who I saw in my life to where it was only her and inanimate objects such as stuffed animals. And that's not healthy. Like, usually kids are exposed to other kids. Kids are exposed to other family members. And though I was exposed to other family members, again, she was there at all times. So it was almost like a plot setup from the very start. So I would want them to take away that don't hold on too tight to someone you love, because it could lead to something unhealthy.
And, in this chapter, I want to be sure, again, that you're speaking your truth and not just things that people think they know about you being young and, you and your mom and you're a baby and your first surgery is at 11 months old, or, all those kinds of details. Do you want to speak to this this child or your first impression and learning, because we learn what love is or how love is or what's normal and not normal by, our caregiver, right? Like, you're taking cues from her.
Right.
So I think, that was sort of one of the themes that Melissa wanted, and I think both of you had talked about that wasn't there, of, you listen to your mother, she knows best. When I tell you you're going to be cleaner and neater to shave your head, then why would you don't know to question that. You don't, of course she wants you to be neat. Can you talk a little bit about, maybe the leeway that you had given her as a, naturally, of course, as a child, to set those parameters up?
I mean, of course. Because she was the main person in my life, she was the only sort of like main human interaction that I had. As a child, of course you're gonna trust your parent, and I didn't see, or I was too young to know the difference between something that she shouldn't have been doing versus something that's okay. I wasn't exposed to other mothers, so I didn't know what is normal and what's not normal. And so I think that whenever she would tell me, stay close to me, I know how to protect you, I would never do anything to hurt you, I always have your best interest at heart, I didn't see anything different because I didn't really know anything was different. And my mom always had a way that she seemed very calm, and it's just like you almost have this instinct that when I would touch her skin and when she would touch my skin, I could feel that we are of the same flesh, we are of the same blood. It's a weird physical connection between a mother and a daughter, or a mother and a child. And as soon as she would hold my hand, I would feel better. So if something would scare me, if a doctor's appointment would scare me, if a surgery would scare me, she would always hold my hand going into the OR. Like, she would walk with the bed that they put you on, the hospital bed, up until the point that she couldn't, she wasn't allowed to go in the OR itself, but she would walk me all the way to the OR and holding my hand. And it was that physical connection that calmed me.
And do you think that that was part of, her MO, was to feel that back from you? Because similarly, her touching your flesh did the same thing?
I think so. I mean, that's why we slept in the same bed together. When I was a baby, I slept in a crib, as far as I can remember. But, as a young child and even into adulthood, I slept in the same bed as her, and we would cuddle. And it was that touch of flesh that gave me a sense of security, and I think that gave her a sense of love, which is what cuddling is supposed to do. But it was that, you break off, you start to distance yourself a little bit naturally as you get older and you sleep in your own bed. But that never happened for me.
Right.
I'm
thinking about that. Yeah.
I think in some ways,
Go ahead.
having that, that hand holding that happened at the hospital, I think it started out innocent, and I think it started out as she wanted to comfort me, and then it ended as a controlling tool. So.
As a what kind of tool?
It's like a control method, because
right.
Then it started to be like signals where it's like I squeeze your hand and you do this or you don't do that. So it became something different later on.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. I just as a parent myself, and I have a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old, both boys, and my 14-year-old, is starting to, exude his independence, and it's kind of like an unraveling, like the leash needs to be let out a little slowly for us as parents. But a lot of it does have to do, I would say most of the time he's saying to us, Jim, so-and-so's mom doesn't do this, or it's always the comparison at 14 of the other kids are allowed, why are you so strict, and questioning. So that, so what you were saying before about you didn't have that vantage point to compare. You didn't have your girlfriend who was like, I'm having a sleepover. What's up with your mom?
Exactly.
Yeah, so that makes total sense. This chapter, I could just, I can read a little bit more to just remind you. She says, this is what we feel this chapter should embody: Gypsy's bond with her mother and the natural childlike trust with her slow decline to sickness perceived as love. And the titles for this chapter could be Mother Knows Best, or When She Loved Me, or A Mother's Love.
Most people don't even know that when, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but most people don't even know that, I actually never even called my mom. She called me baby, and I called her honey growing up. Like in all of my child drawings and all of my little cards to her that I made for Mother's Day and all of that, it was always to honey from baby.
Wow. Is it baby or babe?
Baby. B-A-B-Y.
Baby. Right. Now, yeah, would you mind talking more about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was just something that, I know that, she had called her mother mom, and I just, I guess it was as far back as I can remember that I called her honey. Now whenever I was really, really little, I remember her telling me that I used to call her Ing, I-N-G, because she used to tell me good morning, Ning Ning. I used to call on to the keyboard. So I used to call
That's adorable.
And then from there, it just started being honey, H-U-N-N-Y instead of H-O-N-E-Y.
H-U-N-N-H?
H-U-N-N-Y.
Right.
And, I was her baby. I was her baby girl, so it was baby.
Mhm.
And then I had an aunt that called me Possum because she thought that my eyes looked like possum. That's neither here nor there.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
My aunt still calls me Possum to this day.
Oh wow. Okay. And so would you sign the cards the same way to Honey Love Baby?
Yes, I would. Like, I was just,
Okay.
that was just what we called each other. When I would call for her, it wouldn't be Mom, it wouldn't be Mommy, it would be Honey.
Oh wow. Okay. Even when you were like, what happened when you got mad? Did you still call her Honey because it was just her name?
No, I never called her her name. She always thought that was very disrespectful. She never understood whenever other kids would call their mothers by their name. She was like, that's so disrespectful. Which.
Oh no. I totally agree. No, I mean.
I would never call her by her name, but
Right.
I would call her
No,
mother.
okay. So when you were mad or angry, you would say the formal.
I would say either mother or mama.
Okay.
And depending on the situation.
Yeah. Would Mama be more of like a pleading thing, and Mother would be more of like you're pissed?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great. See, it pays to have kids because they do the same thing. Okay. So I'd like to drop a little, part of the summaries would be to kind of guide them in a story. Do you remember maybe the first time, let's see, that you said, what, there's this question of like, why do I have to be in a wheelchair?
Mm-hmm.
Or like, do you look back now and say you were asking some really tough questions that she had answers to? Like, is that kind of impressive that she could put that question to bed, like the wheelchair issue, or?
I believe that the wheelchair was presented when I was about 8 years old, and I was still very much in the agree with what she agreed to do, and so at that age I really didn't question. I was very obedient and just did it. And in the same time, she would use toys and her affection to coerce me into an agreement. And so sometimes I kind of feel bad about that because I'm like, I understand that it was a very complicated situation, but sometimes I kind of blame myself because I'm like, well, I participated. I didn't participate with the intention, with any ill intention or malice or deceitful thoughts or anything, but I had my end game too, and that was to get whatever toy it was that my mom said that I could have. So I kind of blame myself for that. But point being is that I didn't ask questions at a young age. You would think that a kid would, but I didn't, and I didn't start asking questions until I was a teenager.
Yeah. Which, honestly, maybe, I don't know, like, do you really start questioning until, 12 or 13? It really is, we train children, potty train them, socially training them, you bribe kids all the time by, we're going to your aunt and uncles, and I swear to God, if you're not good, or if you're good, I'll buy you something, like, there is that lore, there is a lore, to kind of like positively reinforce, or so yeah, so what do you recall, like, which toy or something that really was like, I need to have that, like, as a child, like you would definitely be on the hook for that toy?
I was always a sucker for dolls. And my mom would buy me some of the most expensive dolls. Like, they were the collectible kind. They weren't always the kind from Toys R Us. They were some that cost $200.
Right.
And there was this large stuffed animal of the Tiger Raja from Aladdin, the Disney movie Aladdin. It was a large tiger. And I remember I really wanted that, and she got me it, and this was when my grandmother was alive. And I feel like my grandmother pretty much doted on me as a child. I like to think I was her favorite grandchild. But it's like this sort of coercion was still happening when my grandmother was alive. My mother wasn't as bad off when my grandmother was alive than after she passed away. When my grandmother passed away, it got worse, and I think it just put her on a path that maybe if my grandmother was alive, she wouldn't have gone as deep. I feel. So yeah, I was like a sucker for dolls.
Like baby dolls or like American Girl dolls? Like what? I mean,
it started out as baby dolls, and then it grew to be Barbie dolls. Got a huge doll collection.
Oh, okay.
But there was a time when I want to say 6, going into 7. I used to play with like Hot Wheels as a little kid, and the little like little tight little people, little chubby people. I used to play with those.
Yeah. They were like, yeah. Yeah.
They were so short. I played with those, and but then I started to want to play with Barbie dolls, and my mom put up some resistance towards that because Barbie dolls were for a little bit of an older age group, not quite teenagers, but maybe preteens. And I think the dolls were older, and they resembled, teenagers. And so my mom did put up a resistance. She didn't want to buy me Barbie dolls, and she's like, why can't you just like your stuffed animals and like the little people that you used to like? And I'm like, they have long hair. They're so pretty.
Yeah.
So in a sense, it was like she guilt tripped me to still like both, or at least pretend to like both. So it was like I had to say, I still like the little types, little people, but I also like the Barbie dolls too.
I was going to ask you, was it because she had breasts and, that would kind of, like the Barbie doll?
Yeah, I think it was just a little, she was the embodiment of a woman,
Right. Yeah. But isn't it so interesting that, regardless of how you're, let's call it trained or brought up or conditioned or manipulated, whatever word you want to use as a child, something biological still guides you to be curious about more.
Yes. Isn't that amazing? I think it's just so interesting that regardless of how you're brought up, you still follow a line. And it is biological, I guess.
Yeah. Excuse me. I'm just typing.
And then God knows I couldn't, all the rest of the girls, I was, put in Girl Scouts, and my mom would be a volunteer. And, what was so interesting was I started out as a Daisy, because there's Daisy, Brownie, Junior, Cadet, and then if you want to go into being a leader. So I went in, I did my Daisy time, and it all goes by age. I did my Daisy time, but then whenever it came to, being a Brownie, I got stuck. She made me stuck at being a Brownie. I never got to be a Junior or a Cadet. And my mom kind of, the same way she moved around with doctors, she moved around with Girl Scout troops. So I was in Girl Scout troops. I'd always be a Brownie. And
wow.
I think that was maybe because, like, she was starting to lie about my age and make me a couple years younger than what I actually was. So if it goes by age, then obviously I'm stuck in the ground.
Right.
But I
so would she try to, like, go ahead. You go.
I saw all the other, girls. They were like, what are you into? What are you into? I'm into the Spice Girls. I'm into the Backstreet Boys. And actually, my father, I think when I was 7, my dad bought me a Backstreet Boys CD.
Oh.
And my mom returned it because she's like, she's not into that kind of stuff. She's not into boys. And all the rest of the girls was into the Spice Girls and the Backstreet Boys. I was like the big thing back then.
Right.
And I still had to be into Sesame Street.
Wait, you said it was a Backstreet T-shirt or a poster?
It was CD.
Oh, a CD. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you needed to still be into Sesame Street. Wow. And again, are you, so like, let's say at that point, I mean, it's not, it's related, but not the medical stuff, but was there a part of you that was sort of like, this must be because she loves me or she's protecting me, or was it just sort of like, this is kind of like, no, this is the moment I was pissed?
No, because I wasn't exposed to the Backstreet Boys, so I didn't know what it was.
Okay.
So when my mom was like, she told my dad that I'm not into that, I had never even heard the Backstreet Boys to know any different. So I just shrugged it off, and I'm like, whatever.
Right.
Like, whatever. I don't know who these people are, so it doesn't matter.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Hold on a sec. My computer's so slow for a second. Hold on. And I really appreciate you, jumping in with me. I know this isn't easy. I don't want you to think I'm just like so businessy, but I think this is going to make for a really great chapter summary. Just
I do this with my husband all the time. I think I just do it unconsciously or not realizing it. But I talk about my past with him and tell him stories and stuff. So I'm just basically doing the same thing with you.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm sure you trust him much more than me, but I appreciate it. Okay. Okay. So, the next chapter, which, it's funny. I have some of this from the that we had written up for a different when Melissa was doing the other book. I don't know if she told you about the other book, the Killer in the Family kind of idea that she's writing, but it came up.
You told me about it.
Oh, I mean, it's not happening, but I mean, it's just the ideas of what it's like and to be related. But she had mentioned that she, I guess, in some of your interviews, talking about your mother doing, like, I don't know if it's witchcraft necessarily, but
Yeah, she was kind of dabbling into that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like that's some of the theme here in chapter 2, Beholden and Bewitched. I mean, this is probably going to be like one of the bombshell, information-wise that nobody knows. I mean, I would imagine.
Right.
What made you decide to talk about this in this book, and and how does it shape, your early childhood, and then maybe even I was wondering if there was anything ritualistic that would be going on as you got older, or.
Well, my mom, even from a and other family members, I had talked to my cousin Jessica, and it'd been a long, long time since we had spoken. It probably has been about 20 years. And we were talking on the phone, and she even remembers when my mother would talk about how she believed she had these powers that she was given. And she could levitate things, make things happen, move things around, read someone's mind, will things to happen. And as a child, I completely believed her. I mean, there were times that random stuff would happen, stuff would fall off the kitchen table, and she would claim that those were her powers. You see, behold my powers. See, I made that happen. And so it could be, completely unrelated to her, just random shit happening. She claimed those were her powers. And so I completely believed her. And it freaked me out as a kid because I'm like, I better not disappoint her. I better not go against what she says because she could do X, Y, and Z to me. That freaked me out. And then she also claimed that she had control over evil spirits and bad spirits. And so if I was bad, she could easily just tell the bad spirits to come and get me at night. And, growing up, I believed her, and it creeped me out, but she also told me that she inherited those powers from my grandma. And I guess she did tarot cards when her and my grandma used to do tarot cards when my mom was in her teens. And in her teens, she was what today would call goth.
Okay.
She would wear the black clothing, wear the pentagram around her neck, the black candles, and all of that. So I guess you could say that she performed, Wicca.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I was watching something on Travel Channel the other day. And I always didn't understand later on in her life. I didn't understand how she could claim to be a Christian and yet do these practices and believe in this dark magic. Until I saw on the History Channel, the Travel Channel, about voodoo. And I guess voodoo is a combination of Christianity and witchcraft. And so I'm like, that led me to think, was she practicing voodoo and not witchcraft? So I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So when she did a couple of hexes on me, she prayed to God to do these hexes. And I'm like, that doesn't add up, because Wiccans believe in the god and the goddess. And so I'm like, what was she believing in? Because I'm confused. Until I saw that a few days ago, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So I think it was voodoo.
Did she ever have any icons or any paraphernalia that you'd be looking at, or any voodoo spells that any spells that you would say?
She had a book, and it was called Gumbo Ya.
Oh.
And, she had a book, and it had spells in the back, hexes in the back, and how to do it, and what the rituals were. And she didn't have any, I don't think, paraphernalia. She had a Ouija board when I was younger. So not any skulls or anything. There wasn't an altar or anything, but board,
Yeah. Okay. So was this sort of after the kind of toys and the kind of lures to keep you kind of docile? If the toys began to not work, this kind of psychological power became something that kind of suppressed you from questioning or being disobedient?
Yes, because there was a couple of times that the toys started to not work. And then that's whenever sleeping, I've always been afraid of the dark. And sleeping in my bedroom, because I always slept with her, became a punishment. So it becomes sleep in your bedroom, and I'm going to send the evil spirits after you. So, and that freaked me out as a kid. That was the worst. I would cry and cry and cry and I would put up such a fuss. And there would be times that I'd just sit at her door, by her bedroom door, and cry and beg her, please, please forgive me. I'll do better next time. I'm so sorry, Mama. And oh my God, crying. And there would be times I'd try to wear her down. And then there would be times that maybe her bedroom door would be open, she'd fall asleep, and I would sneak in her bed, and I'd sneak one arm in. I'd slowly start to sneak under the covers. I'd sneak a leg in, and then check see if she'd be awake and woke her up. Nope, okay. Continue to sneak my body in, and before you knew it, when she would wake up in the morning, I'd be all the way in bed, probably sprawled out on the bed.
Oh, wow.
I put a fuss up, for real.
So, wait, I guess I'm unclear. So, was not sleeping in her bedroom was a punishment? Not sleeping with her was a punishment, right?
Not sleeping in her bed was a punishment, yeah.
Was a punishment, okay.
It was a form of punishment.
Okay, so then, so part of your crying and begging it was sort of like a reverse manipulation back to her. It wasn't like you were like completely freaking out that you're not sleeping with her. You're kind of, like you said, wearing her down, telling her what she wants to hear in that, desperate, like, please, kind of thing. Or was that really you were scared?
That was, number one, I didn't want to be away from her. Like, I didn't want that physical connection, that flesh connection to be broken. And the other part was I was afraid of the dark, and my mom didn't let me have a nightlight in my room, so I knew that sleeping in my room meant I would have to sleep in there in the dark.
Mm-hmm. Why were you afraid of the dark?
Because I can't see what's going on. Like, if I see a shape, I might think that it's something bad, like a monster.
Was that conditioned in you? Like, was that planted in you that, the shapes that took place were not just shapes, or is that just normal child stuff?
It was never told to me that they weren't just shapes. I can tell you that. It never was like, don't be afraid. There's nothing in there. Nothing's going to come and get you. There's nothing under your bed. It was always like, good luck sleeping in your room tonight. You never know what could come and get you.
Oh, okay. Wow, okay. Now, what could you possibly do to warrant that kind of punishment to not sleep with her? Like, what kind of infraction did you do that was it, you're out tonight?
Looking back on it, it was really simple things. It could be something like, I remember when I was younger, I went to a birthday party, and it was for one of my cousins, and my mom left me there with my aunt, and my aunt was watching me. Well, I guess my aunt turned away for a small time during the party, and me and a couple of other of my cousins, like, wandered off, and we found this tree, and I guess we started to climb the tree, and my aunt caught us. I was like, get down, you're going to hurt yourself, or whatever, and ended up telling my mom. And that warranted something like that, a punishment of me sleeping in my room. Or if a neighbor came over and I talked too much. I remember there was a time that this was in Springfield at our Habitat for Humanity house, and a neighborhood girl had came over. Her name is Aaliyah, and a lot of people kind of know her name because she came up in a lot of my stories about living in Springfield. She came over, and I said something to the fact of, get your mind out of the gutter or something, and I meant it for something else and not in a sexual way, but I just said it as a thing because I heard it from a TV show. And so I got punished for that because my mom told me, she's like, how dare you say something like that? Like, now she's going to think that you talk sexual or whatever. And I'm like, I didn't mean it like that. I meant, like, quit being silly or something. And she's like, well, that's not what that means. But she's going to think it means something else.
Okay. Gotcha. Is this the neighbor that was profiled? I'm sorry. Is this the neighbor that was profiled in the act? This
Yes,
neighbor?
yes.
Okay.
Aaliyah Woodman.
Okay. Mm.
It's just something as simple as I said something wrong, or not,
Right.
whatever, what you perceive as wrong.
Right. Would that only just be for the night? Like, it wouldn't last?
Right. It would be for the night. It started out for the night, and then when I started to get a little older, I want to say actual age probably around 14, 15, 16, I actually started liking sleeping in my room because I taught myself how to read. So I would sleep with a book. Like, I'd read a book at night, and I'd have like this little flashlight, and I'd read a book, and I taught myself how to keep busy during the night.
So you were still sleeping with her at 15 or 16, but when you were punished, you would read in your room?
Yes.
Did you try to get punished more?
No, not actively, because usually arguments were very emotional, and they were very emotionally draining. I'd still, at 15 and 16 years old, still be putting up the same kind of fight, but I learned to adapt, to make the best out of a situation. And so I'd still be trying to get to sleep in the bed with her, but I accepted what happened at the same time. I'm like, okay, well, this is not working, so I'm just going to read.
Okay. And what do you remember what you would read? Like, what book?
I took a huge liking to the Star Wars novels. Like, they have the movies, but then they have so many novels continuing on the story. So I would be immersed in that.
What was the draw about those stories?
I've always been into Star Wars. It's always been one of my favorite movies and movie franchises. So when I discovered these books, I'm like, oh, the story continues, and I can just take myself away from where I'm at and just be almost obsessed with the world that they would, that you can create in your mind, and you can create this whole reality in your mind without even leaving your bedroom.
Right. Well,
and it made it
do you
better.
still read?
I do still read. It takes a lot for me to
No, I meant the Star Wars stuff. Do you still read them, or do you revisit them at all now as an adult?
Yeah, I do. They have a few of their novels in the library, and and Ryan will buy me a couple because I could have like up to 6 books, personal books, in my cell. That's fine. And so I have had a couple that I've read since I've been in prison. That's something that I'm going to pick up when I get out, because I'll have the more freedom to follow a series instead of just like book tour of 8 or something,
Right. Yeah. That's great. Okay, so that was that chapter. So just kind of, it's interesting so far, the first 2 chapters, as we've just discussed them, it's more of this, mind control than necessarily the medical stuff. How do you think? I was going to ask you, like, do you think that they had to go hand in hand in her mind, or were they separate kind of issues?
I'm not sure, because as a child, the medical stuff, I don't believe was to me, I look back on it and I understand that it was abuse, but looking back on it, to me, I'm like, it wasn't abuse at the same time, because to me, that was just my life. Going to doctor's appointments, going to have surgeries, that was just life for me. And it wasn't something that my mom threatened me with. It was just, okay, on Saturday we have, or on, Friday we have a doctor's appointment at 8 o'clock in the morning. Get up for that. Go to this appointment. Go see that doctor. Like, it was just so ingrained as a routine and a normacy in my life that I didn't feel that it was a tool, a manipulation tool. It was just, it is what it is. It wasn't until getting into the teen years and the 20s, early 20s, that it became, that abuse level, that it was a form of abuse. Like, if you don't do this, then I'm not going to tell the doctor to put you asleep for this surgery that you're supposed to have. That I think it came later.
Okay. When you got caught climbing the tree, were you supposed to be in a wheelchair in front of your aunt?
No, this is before the wheelchair.
Oh, so you were really young.
I was really young, yeah.
How old were you when the wheelchair started, or do you not remember?
I want to say about 8 years old.
Okay. How do you go from one position? How did she accomplish that? Like, here you're climbing trees, and now you're relegated to.
Right. I was in a motorcycle accident with my grandfather. My grandfather had a red Harley Davidson motorcycle, and he always used to take me riding. And one day, I was riding on the back, and of course I had my helmet, I had proper protection. A car cut in front of us, and instead of slamming on the brakes, he swerved to the side and laid the bike down on my leg. And my knee got skinned, but it wasn't major damage. It was just a flesh wound. But she made a bigger deal out of it than what it was, and she would take me to physical therapy for a flesh wound. Keep in mind, put a brace on it, and then from then on it was use a walker. Okay, and then from the walker, she brought home a wheelchair, and that's how it sort of just kind of, it was a stepping stone to that. And that's how it got presented.
But then that, I guess when you moved, the wheelchair became a different part of a different story, right? It wasn't that you were in a motorcycle accident. It was something different.
When I moved, whenever my mom and I had moved, then it became, I had a seizure on the operating table for one of my surgeries, and it damaged the part of my brain that controls leg movement, whatever. So that was the story that she told everybody after, we moved to Missouri.
Gotcha.
But then, like, the medical records said, like, I had dystrophy and that I was paralyzed. And then in some medical records, I don't even know how some of these doctors did not even think to catch this, but they said I'm quadriplegic, which means from the neck down. And they clearly saw my arms moving, like they see me moving my upper body. And then other medical records, they say that I am paraplegic. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you had, so that was neurological damage from an operating table. Then you went. Then some said you had muscular dystrophy. Others said you were paraplegic. Do you? I mean, have you spoken about, like, do you blame these ridiculously ignorant medical people at all? Like, I mean, they're like they're negligent, no?
I feel like it was, because I know that my mother had a very convincing personality. To the outside world, she seemed like a sweetheart with, like, the most devoting, loving, a good, positive mother. And so I totally get it how they can fall for something like that, because if I didn't know my mother, I wouldn't know. But they still ignored their, I guess, practice or their responsibility to look into something more. And I think they overlook that based on
Yeah.
their perception. And that's where I
Right.
think they were flawed in. Because it's like
Right.
you're getting these test results that are coming back normal, but you're going to overlook that and be like, well, the mom says there's something wrong, so we're just going to ignore these normal test results and go with the mom says because surely she would never be wrong.
Mhm. Yeah. I just had a question and it just left me. Okay, it'll come back. Okay.
I'm actually
So.
trying to scroll through my pictures right now because Christy, my stepmom, had taken a picture of one of my medical records, and I wanted to read it to you. I'm having to look through all the pictures on my tablet. So.
Go ahead, read it. Yeah. Feel free if you find it to interrupt me and read it.
Okay.
How is it when, I mean, do you have a library of photos on your phone that you is it like hard for you to look at those?
I have a tablet that the prison provides, and it's their tablet, but the data on it, like the email's mine. And I don't have many pictures from the past. Actually, I don't even think I have any from the past. I think I might have one of me when I was very little. That's about it. I don't have any pictures of my mom. I don't want any pictures of my mom on here because I do from time to time miss her, and it is hard because she was a constant in my life, and I guess I just don't want to be reminded of it all the time.
Mhm.
So most of my pictures are all from my dad or Christy or Ryan or some friends of mine.
Yes, you're looking ahead.
Yeah, looking ahead, not behind.
Right. Okay. So I have a question. How did you, did you find out about your life through the discovery process of your life? I mean, it sounds like a lot of this stuff it was kind of like news to you, right? I mean,
it was. When I first had my first interview with Mike Stanfield, my public defender, I walk into the room for an attorney visit, and he's got a stack of papers on the desk, and they all say Blanchard fraud scheme, D.D. Blanchard fraud, and all this kind of stuff, and he's telling me, and he's asking me questions about how I felt about my mom. And, of course, still very conflicted about everything. I'm like, I love my mama. I would have never done anything to hurt my mama. I didn't even trust my own attorney. So I still kept the self-preservation, deny, up as much as I could, until I finally broke down, and he's like, what was it like the days that you and Nick were on the run? What did you feel? And I told him that I felt like I had wings, and I was free, and I could fly, and it was the most wonderful experience of my life, being free for that short amount of time, but still, of course, going through the emotions of feeling conflicted about what just happened. You know, I never was I like, yes, I'm so happy she's dead. I never felt that way. But I enjoyed the freedom. And he's like, that's what I wanted to know. And that makes sense. Because every time I was like, oh, I love my mama, you know, and he's like, doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And then when I finally said that, he's like, that, I believe, that makes sense. And then he started to tell me about what Munchausen by proxy is, and that there are things that are just not normal. And I would tell him, just like I'm telling you about different things in my life, he's like, Gypsy, that's not normal. Normal kids don't experience that. Normal kids don't do that. Normal mothers don't do that. So I was learning about what's normal and what's not normal through, like you said, through the discovery process.
Right. Yeah, I find that really fascinating. I mean, and I can't even imagine like how that feels real, or does it feel like it's just like you're reading a novel about somebody else, like when you're being told.
Yeah, it feels like you're reading a novel about someone else. And especially like I watched a few things like recreations about my life on TV, and it's like I'm watching somebody else's life because either it's been too much in the past now, or I guess at the time I didn't perceive it that way. Um, and so then I started to feel sorry about what I've been through. I started to feel pity for myself. And I'm like, oh, this is
Good.
world,
Yeah.
But at the time being in it, you don't realize it.
Mm. So, yeah, the reason I asked that was because chapter 3 is Blanchard versus Blanchard with the E at the end. And, so, a lot, I mean, I know very little about my own parents' relationship in terms of whatever they didn't want me to know, like as an adult and as a child, you don't know certain things. So I was just wondering, like, how do you come to, to know all this information about your dad and your mom and, and so I was just, was a lot of this exposed to you through your father in conversations, or is this really through the discovery?
A little bit of both. After the fact.
Mm-hmm.
So, after the murder happened, I talked to my dad and asked him questions because there are stories that my mother told me about him that are just horrible. She told me a story about when I was a few months old. We were living in this little house, this little rent house, and my dad came home drunk one night, and I was crying, and I guess my crying annoyed him, and so he picked me up by my throat and threw me at my mother and said, "Shut her up or I will." And I asked my dad that. I'm like, did that happen? And I explained to him, I'm like, I'm not going to be mad at you. I just want to know what's real and what's not real. And he's like, baby, that never happened. Like, I would never do that, drunk or not. And I'm like, okay. Then there's things that are in my discovery, like my mom said that he never paid child support. There is receipts upon receipts that he continued to pay over $1,200 a month to my mom for child support, even past 18 years old, because he thought that I was sick and I needed the help. I needed that for medical bills and whatnot. So that was something that I learned, and it just blew my mind. There was, my dad would buy me Christmas gifts and have it shipped to wherever me and my mom would be living. And she'd get the package before I'd see it, unwrap it, and then present it to me and be like, look what I bought you. And I didn't buy you anything for Christmas again because he probably bought me a new dress or Dylan a new video game system,
Oh, so she was turning you against your siblings?
Siblings, yeah. And that's still something that I have a hard time with even today. Like, it's so ingrained. And I'm trying to create a bond with my brother and my sister. My brother is 27, I think 27, and my sister is going to be 22. And I've always viewed my sister as the golden child, and I've always kind of envied her a little bit because in my mind, she's everything that I could have been had I lived with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
She was cheer captain. She was prom queen. She was, she's beautiful. She's a successful woman. And here I am sitting in prison, and I have had so much physically done to me. I don't even have front teeth. I have to wear fake teeth. And for the best part of anyone's teenhood or young adulthood, I was bald. I had no hair. So I was bald and didn't have any front teeth. And that's how I grew up. No boy looked at me I never had a prom. I never was popular. I never had friends. So I had a really shitty childhood. You know, so of course, I still have those thoughts where I am a little envious, but I love my sister and I love my brother, and I can only move forward now. You know, I look forward to the things that we will share together. I look forward to being an equal to them. You know, I'm no longer held back from my potential. So I think that envy is starting to be less and less the closer I approach being able to live a life of my own. But that was so ingrained in me from early childhood to be jealous of what they had because they had our father. They had his time and they lived with him and they had, you know, his attention and his love.
Wow, Gypsy, that was very, very profound, really. Do you tell your sister did you ever mention this to her? I mean, it certainly makes logical sense.
No, I don't think that I'm ready to, not while I'm in prison. I want to talk to her and sit her down and really explain those kinds of things, those stories that my mom put into my head. So it's not something you want to tell over a prison phone. You want to have that internal.
Of course, yeah.
I had spent, I want to say it was like 2 weeks ago, I spent a good 45 minutes on the phone with my sister. And we just talked, and I'm like, you know, what kind of makeup do you use? Because I'm going to be getting out, and I've never worn makeup, you know, on the outside of prison. I wear makeup in here. It's very, very cheap makeup. And so I'm like, what are some good brands? You know, we're just talking girl talk. So I'm putting in the effort to try and put that behind me in the past and create a relationship with her.
Oh, hold on, Gypsy, 1 second. She's going to come with me. Yeah. Yeah. What? Oh, you found it?
I found it.
Okay, hold on. Let me go up to. Okay. I just wanted to ask you, did you ever think that your sister and, you know, your brother, but, you know, I guess sisters are different. I don't have a sister, but do you think that she's ever felt similarly, like, you know, that your mom took her sister away from her, like that she might be a different person if she had a big sis, or, you know, kind of feeling like she lost out instead of you being the one who kind of lost out on, you know, all the great things that, you know, the prom and the boys and the being, you know, with your dad and having this great childhood and life and turning into this beautiful, you know, strong woman that she is, but that she might feel similarly, like, I could even be better if I had Gypsy as my big, and this is what was taken from me.
I never asked her that, and, you know, to be honest, I never even thought it in that perspective before, because in many ways now, like with the situation being what it is, with not by the age, but by life experience, she's the older sister. You know, she has experienced things that I haven't. She has dated more. She has had jobs. She's in college. She's in nursing school. So in so many ways, like, she's the big sister. So I never really thought to think about it that way. You know, had things turned out differently, and I lived with her, or we grew up together, and I would have been the big sister. I know that when I got arrested, she was 14. And growing up, you know, she knew that she had a sister. She knew about me. But the last time I had seen my sister, she was maybe 1 year old. I held her as a baby. And I was like 9 years old, and I held her as a baby. And that is the last time I remember we were at my grandfather's house, and I held her, and that was the last time that I had seen her until 2017, when her, my brother Dylan, and Dad and Christy came to visit me in here in prison.
Wow.
So tell you, I really didn't have much of a relationship with my sister. My brother was a different story. When my brother was little, we did get to have a couple of visits whenever, a few visits that my dad had with me. There was a couple of times that Dylan was, brought along with that visit, and we played together as little children.
Mhm.
And then the last time I saw
Hello?
him before 20. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you cut out for a second. I don't know why.
Okay, that's my phone.
You said when you brought it, you said you had a few visits with your dad. When sometimes it would be your little brother alone,
Yeah.
and then I lost you.
Yeah, and then I think the last time I had seen my brother before 2017, he was 10 years old.
Okay. In 2017. Wow.
And like when I've seen him after all that time, he's so tall. Like God, he's so tall. My brother's so tall, and he had facial hair. I'm like, oh my God, like you're all grown up.
Yeah.
You just, like it was shocking how much time had flew by because everybody else seemed to have grown up and grown as people and grew into adulthood, and yet I was supposedly staying the same age or be made to be younger. And I would question that too. I'd be like, God, isn't, Dylan supposed to be X amount of years old or whatever? And my mom would be like, oh no, he's this age. So she would lie to me and be like, he's younger than what he was.
Oh.
But so I wouldn't start putting things together.
Right.
Okay, so tell me when you're ready.
Okay, yeah. Let me go scroll up. Medical record. Where did I put that? All right, well, I'll just make a space right here. Okay. Oh, here I am. All right, I'm ready.
Okay, so it looks like this is a letter to my primary care physician from the cardiology department at Children's Mercy Hospital in Kansas City. It's dated April 3rd, 2007. It says that my date of birth is 7/27/1993. It says, Dear Dr. Steele, I saw Gypsy Rose for an evaluation in pediatric cardiology clinic today, accompanied by her mother. Gypsy Rose has multiple medical concerns as outlined by her mother. She is quadriplegic from birth and in a wheelchair. She has mild retardation and visual and hearing, and visual defects. She has central hyperventilation and is on a CPAP at night. She has epilepsy and asthma. She was treated for leukemia when younger. She has some sort of muscle disease, but her mother is not sure of the type. She has multiple surgeries. Has had multiple surgeries. Eye muscle misfundification and G-tube tonsillectomy. Good God, I don't even know what that was called. I think it's like tubes in the ears. Submandibular glands removed, and is in a wheelchair. She had a heart murmur recently and came in for an evaluation. There is no history of palpitations, chest pain, or syncope, whatever that means. Her limbs periodically become cold and blue, and her left leg occasionally swells, according to her mother. Her prior care was in New Orleans at either Charity Hospital or New Orleans Children's Hospital. Her mother said that many, if not all, of her medical records were lost during Hurricane Katrina. The family history is negative for heart disease in children and young adults. Both her grandfathers died of
sorry about that. You want to try? I'm so sorry. My husband just walked in the door with a cooler of ice. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Is everything okay?
Everything's great.
Okay. Where
Okay.
did you hear the last?
So both your grandfathers are still alive.
Yes, both my grandfathers are still alive, but in this medical record, she said that both of them had passed away of artery disease.
Wow.
Okay. Okay. Let's find out. She is on Tegretol, Zantac, Ciprodex, Advair, Flonase, Provent, Lactulose, Zopanex, Diazepam, and Pulmicort. On the exam today, she was alert, small but happy girl, sitting in a wheelchair. Her weight is 43.4 kilograms. Blood pressure in the right arm is 121/63, and pulse is 105 and regular. Her lungs are clear without use of accessory muscles. Cardiac exam reveals a normal first and second heart sound with vibratory grade 2 over. I have no idea what that is. Something. Injection systolic murmur at the lower cisternal border. God, I don't even know what that freaking means. The abdomen is soft without masses. There is a G-tube in place. The bronchial and pedal pulses are normal. She had no extremity edema today, and her arms were warm and well perfused. An ECG shows a sinus rhythm at 111 BPM with normal intervals and voltages. I believe Gypsy has a structurally normal heart. She has multiple other medical concerns, and these are in the process of being well sorted out. I told her mother that one of the most important things would be to track down any information regarding Gypsy Rose's mastopathy. What is with these words? Mastopathy, whatever that means. Specifically, the muscle biopsy results. I guess it's to find out why can't I walk. Her cardiac follow-up will, in large part, be determined by those results findings. I told her that I would be happy to see her at any time or in the Joplin Outreach Clinic should additional cardiac concerns arise. That's it.
So basically, this letter is like, it was like she was just taking everything your mother said as like the fact that she just summarized without seeing actual proof of all these things. It was like, her mother told me this, her mother, she has this disease, she has that, and that was it. That was just like, that was fact.
Yes.
Wow. Now, why do you have this letter?
Christy has a copy of some of my medical records, and she took a picture of it and she sent it to me.
Wow.
Because I told her, I'm like, there's a lot of things that I don't know about myself, and a lot of things that I don't know about what happened to me. Like, I know the experience, so I know the surgery experience, but I don't know what it was called. I don't know the medications that I was on. So it's like, in a sense, I don't know what happened to me, and I want to know what happened to me.
Yeah. How does it make you feel when you're reading all of that? I mean, obviously with all the Latin words, but I mean, are you reading this and do you have any like righteous indignation? I mean, I'm getting angry for you.
It's extremely heartbreaking because I'm like, number one, like, why are you just going to take somebody at their word? I can understand that you're just seeing me in the clinic and you're taking down a history and physical. I get that. But there's no medical records to, base your, findings on, and everything that this doctor said, it's normal, it's normal, it's normal. You see how many times normal came up in the letter? Like, that should have been a concern right there. She's bringing me in for concern about my heart, yet my heart's perfectly normal.
Mhm. Which, I mean, I would assume the likelihood of having a normal heart when you have, like, every other problem on earth is, like, very low. Right?
Right.
Especially when you're going through when you're going through cancer treatments and stuff, like, I've heard, like, your heart gets damaged from some of those treatments. And so supposedly with leukemia, were you just not being treated for it?
I know that I don't think that I actually was treated for leukemia. I don't think that was one of the I think she said that I was treated for leukemia.
Oh, wow.
Because when I asked, I've never gone through chemotherapy. I've never gone through radiation. But to keep up me being quiet and complacent and a participant in all of this, she had convinced me too. So she would tell me that one of my other medications was for cancer. So it was like, when my attorney Mike, he was like, what exactly was chemotherapy? And I'm like, it was a liquid medication. It was a purple liquid medication. And, he knew that it wasn't. So, and there's nothing in my medical records to find that I actually had chemotherapy. So, because there was no freaking cancer.
And then she would get you to shave your head because, like, what was the reasoning for that? Like, in her mind, like, what was she telling you if it wasn't for chemo?
Yeah, she was telling me that, like, for me, like, I've seen going to the hospital, I've seen other kids have patches of hair missing, and, wondering, like, what's wrong with them. As a kid, you're just like, what's wrong with them? And I didn't want that to happen to me, and so my mom was like, prevent that from happening, we're going to shave your head because you're going to lose your hair, and it's going to fall out in patches like that. And she's like, I just don't understand why their moms and their dads don't just shave their hair off, because if it's going to fall out in patches, it looks weird, so it would look a little nicer and neater if it was just all shaved off.
Mhm.
So
and what do you think's going through her mind when she's suggesting this, though?
What is going through her mind?
Like, yeah, like, why would you want your daughter bald?
I have no idea.
What was that because she was still with the narrative that you were still going through chemo treatments, or was it just separate? Or
Yeah, that was with the narrative going through the chemo treatment.
And also, do you think that not that you're psychoanalyzing your mother, but is hair kind of like a little bit of a, not a sex thing, but like, having your femininity, what?
Yeah, like a beauty thing, like
like a feminine, it's like you're feminine, and then maybe if you have beautiful, long, flowing hair, it's kind of attractive and Barbie-like,
Yeah, I think, my mother was a beauty queen when she was in her young adult years. And for me, from a small age, there's pictures of me that I had short hair. And it wasn't short like a boy. It was maybe shoulder length at best. But I had blonde, little wispy, curly hair. I looked like Shirley Temple a little bit. But then as I started to get older, then that the, cancer, leukemia thing started to come up. And so my mom would keep my hair cut like a boy. And it was a very hard thing for me, because it's like I never had long hair as a child. My mom kept it short. She said that's the way she liked it. It was her preference over mine, and that's the way it was. As a girl, I got treated like a boy from other people. They thought that I was a boy. My mom would buy me clothes. She'd go to the boys' department. Okay, but my mom would buy me, pretty dresses and stuff. But for casual wear, instead of like cute little tank tops that the girls would be wearing or little shorts or whatever, my mom would go to the boys department and buy me a superhero shirt and basketball shorts. Now, I looked like a whole little boy. I didn't have boobs yet. And there was somebody who passed us, in Walmart or whatever, and referenced me as a boy, like, oh, him and he.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm a girl, And they'd be like, it's the old man or whatever. And no, that's a boy.
Right. That's so interesting now that you have that. There's all this, like, these parents turning their kids into transgender kids now. It's like a whole different problem.
Anymore.
That's so interesting. That's weird. Wow. That she was like ahead of her time. But Gypsy, I have to go in like 3 minutes. Can we do this again tomorrow or the next day? Like.
Yeah, that's fine. You just let me know, or have Melissa text Ryan, or you text Ryan, whatever. When's the best time, and I will call.
Great, because then we're through chapter 3 now, so then we can just probably finish up tomorrow with just getting your take on these chapter summaries, and then I could write them up over the weekend.
Okay, that sounds good.
Oh, you're the best. I'm super grateful to you. Okay, so I'll look at my schedule tomorrow with knowing that the late afternoon is count time, right? So same time every day.
Right, that works for me. Yeah, count time.
Okay. So I wonder. Let me see if I could do two. Let me see about 2:00 tomorrow. I'm going to check my schedule and see about 2:00 tomorrow. Would that work tentatively?
Yeah, that works fine for me.
Okay, I'll get in touch with Melissa and Ryan. But thank you again. This has been really, really helpful.
Oh, good. Not a problem. And we can talk some more tomorrow.
Okay, Gypsy. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
The caller has hung up.